So Bitcoin price has gone through quite a roller coaster. What do you think is the high point it's going to hit?
I think it'll go forever, right? I mean, I think the Bitcoin is going to it's going to climb in a serpentine fashion. It's going to advance and come back, and it's going to keep climbing. I think that the volatility attracts all the capital into the marketplace. And so the volatility makes it the most interesting thing in the financial universe. It also generates massive yield and massive returns for traders, and that attracts capital. Like we're talking about the difference between 5% return and 500% return.
Mm-hmm.
So the fast money is attracted by the volatility. The volatility has been decreasing year by year by year. I think that it's stabilizing. I don't think we'll see as much volatility in the future as we have in the past. I think that if we look at Bitcoin and model it as digital gold, the market cap goes to between 10 and 20 trillion. But gold is defective property. Gold is dead money. You have $1 billion of gold that sits in a vault for a decade. It's very hard to mortgage the gold. It's also very hard to rent the gold. You can't loan the gold. No one's going to create a business with your gold. So gold doesn't generate much of a yield. So for that reason, most people wouldn't store $1 billion for a decade in gold. They would buy $1 billion of commercial real estate property. And the reason why is because I can rent it and generate a yield on it that's in excess of the maintenance cost. So if you consider digital property, that's $100 to $200 trillion addressable market. So I would think it goes from 10 trillion to 100 trillion as people start to think of it as digital property.
What does that mean in terms of price per coin?
At 500,000, right? That's a $10 trillion asset. At 5 million, that's a $100 trillion asset.
So you think it crosses 1 million, it can go even higher?
Yeah, I think it keeps going up forever. I mean, there's no reason we couldn't go to 10 million a coin, right? Because digital property isn't the highest form, right? Gold was that low frequency money. Property is a mid frequency money. But when I start to program it faster, it starts to look like digital energy, and then it doesn't just replace property. Then you're starting to replace bonds. Right? It's 100 trillion in bonds. There's 50 to 100 trillion in other currency derivatives. And these are all conventional use cases, right? I think that there's 350 trillion to 500 trillion dollars worth of currency derivatives in the world. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I mean things that are valued based upon fiat cash flows. Any commercial real estate, any bond, any sovereign debt, any currency itself, any derivatives to those things, they're all derivatives, and they're all defective. And they're all defective because of this persistent 7 to 14% lapse, which we call inflation or monetary expansion. Can we switch subjects and talk about the energy side of it, like
sure.
the innovative piece?
Yeah.
Let's just start with this idea that I've got a hotel worth $1 billion with 1,000 rooms. Mm-hmm. When it becomes a dematerialized hotel.
I love that word so much, by the way, dematerialized hotel.
Like we're across from the Fontainebleau here. Imagine the Fontainebleau is dematerialized.
Yeah.
The problem with the physical hotel is I got to hire real people moving subject to the speed of sound and physics laws and Newton's laws, and I can rent it to people in Miami Beach. Mm-hmm. But if it was a digital hotel, I could rent the room to people in Paris, London, and New York every night. And I can run it with robots. And as soon as I do that, I can rent it by the room hour. And I can rent it by the room minute. And so I start to chop my hotel up into 100,000 room hours that I sell to the highest bidder anywhere in the world. And you can see all of a sudden the yield, the rent, and the income of the property is dramatically increased. I can also see the maintenance cost of the property falls. I get on Moore's law, and I'm operating in cyberspace. So I got rid of Newton's laws. I got rid of all the friction and all those problems. I tapped into the benefits of cyberspace. I created a global property. I started monetizing it at different frequencies. And of course, now I can mortgage it to anybody in the world, right? I mean, you're not going to be able to get a mortgage on a Turkish building from someone, in South Africa. You have to find someone that's local to the culture you're in. So when you start to move from analog property to digital property, it's not just a little bit better, it's a lot better. And what I just described, Lex, is like the DeFi vision, right? It's the beauty of DeFi, flash loans, money moving at high velocity. At some point, if the hotel is dematerialized, then what's the difference between renting a hotel room and loaning a block of stock, right? I'm just finding the highest, best use of the thing.
It feels like the magic really emerges though when you build a market of layer 2 and layer 3 technologies on top of that. So like, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for all these hotels and all these kinds of ideas, it's always touching humans at some point, and the consumers or
Yeah.
humans, business owners, and so on. And so you have to create interface. You have to create services that make all of that super efficient, super fun to use, pleasant, effective, all those kinds of things. And so you have to build a whole economy on top of that.
Yeah, and I happen to think that won't be done by the crypto industry at all. I think that'll be done by centralized applications. I think it'll be, the Citadels of the world, the high-speed traders of the world, the New Yorkers. I think it'll be Binance, FTX, and Coinbase as a layer 3 exchange that will give you the yield and will give you the loan and the best terms. Because ultimately, you have to jump these compliance hoops. It comes like BlockFi can give you yield, but they have to do it in a compliant way with the United States jurisdiction. So ultimately, those applications to use that digital property and either generate a loan, give you a loan on it, or give you yield on it, are going to come from companies. But the fundamental difference is, it could be companies anywhere in the world. So if a company in Singapore comes up with a better offering, right, then the capital is going to start to flow to Singapore. I can't send 10 city blocks of LA to Singapore to rent during a festival, but I can send 10 blocks of Bitcoin to Singapore. So you've got a truly global market that's functioning in this asset. And is there a second order asset? For example, maybe you're an American citizen and you own 10 Bitcoin, and someone in Singapore will generate 27% yield in the Bitcoin, but legally you can't send the money to them or the Bitcoin to them. It doesn't matter, because the fact that that exists means that someone in Hong Kong will borrow the 10 Bitcoin from somebody in New York, and then they will put on the trade in Singapore, and that will create a demand for Bitcoin, which will drive up the price of Bitcoin, which will result in an effective tax-free yield for the person in the US that's not even in the jurisdiction. So there's nothing that's going on in Singapore to drive up the price of your land in LA. But there is something going on everywhere in the world to drive up the price of property in cyberspace if there's only one digital Manhattan. And so there's a dynamic there which is profound because it's global. But now let's go to the next extreme. I'm still giving you a fairly conventional idea, which is, let's just loan the money fast on a global network, and let's just rent the hotel room fast in cyberspace. But now let's move to maybe a more innovative idea. The first generation of the internet, brought a lot of productivity, but there's also just a lot of flaws in it. For example, Twitter is full of garbage. Instagram DMs are full of garbage. Your Twitter DMs are full of garbage. YouTube is full of scams. Every 15 minutes, there's a Michael Saylor Bitcoin giveaway spun up on YouTube.
Yep.
My Office 365 inbox is full of garbage. Millions of spam messages. I'm running 4 different email filters. My company spends $1 million a year to fight denial of service attacks and all sorts of other security things. There are denial of service attacks everywhere against everybody in cyberspace all the time. It's extreme. And we're all beset with hostility, right? You've been a victim of it in Twitter. You go on Twitter and people post stuff they would never say to your face. And then if you look, you find out that the account was created like 3 days ago and it's not even a real person. Mm-hmm. So, we're beset with phishing attacks and scams and spam bots and garbage. And why? And the answer is because the first generation of internet was digital information and there's no energy. There's no conservation of energy in cyberspace. The thing that makes the universe work is conservation of energy. Like if I went to a hotel room, I'd have to post a credit card. And then if I smashed the place up, there'd be economic consequences. Maybe there'd be criminal consequences. There might be reputational consequences. A lamp might fall on me. But in the worst case, I can only smash up one hotel room. Now imagine I could actually write a Python script to send myself to every hotel room in the world every minute, not post a credit card, and smash them all up anonymously. Right? The thing that makes the universe work is friction, speed of sound, speed of light, and the fact that it's conservative. You're either energy or you're matter, but once you've used the energy, it's gone, and you can't do infinite everything. That's missing in cyberspace right now. And if you look at all of the moral hazards and all of the product defects that we have in all of these products, most of them, 99% of them, could be cured if we introduced conservation of energy into cyberspace. And that's what you can do with high-speed digital property, high-speed Bitcoin. And by high speed, I mean not 20 transactions a day, I mean 20,000 transactions a day. Mm-hmm.